that music means it is time for My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Schepp every Thursday at 11 a.m. here on 216 The Net, 216thenet.com. And today with Mary, we have a special guest, as a matter of fact. Mary, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to the other fellow here at the table?
So my guest today is my first guest ever, which is fantastic. Dr. Ronald Masukawa. He has been my chiropractor acupuncturist for going on 21 years now. So I met him because he yelled at me about how I sit, which consequently I don't do anymore. And he was 100% correct.
You do sit. You just sit better.
Yeah, I sit way better. He came into my office, my boss's office, and made a comment about how, do my hips hurt? And I was like, well, that's awfully forward and weird because I don't know you. And I think I was in that office like 2 weeks. And he made a comment about how I was sitting on my foot and it shifts everything in my spine and so on and so forth. And I should come see him. And, 21 years later, I'm still harassing the crap out of him. And now he's on my show. So it's kind of fantastic. People had a ton of questions about acupuncture and chiropractic care because I mentioned it before on my show. So we've talked about how it's helped me significantly, especially now with my spinal lesion, which isn't really low sodium, but it's still a significant part of my life. And he's helped tremendously. As a matter of fact, yesterday alone, you helped me get everything straightened away. So it's kind of one of those things where how do you explain what something is without actually having the source here? So I figured, why not bring him on my show and tell us about acupuncture and tell us about chiropractic. And that being said, so what is chiropractic care? What is acupuncture? How do you define them?
Well, basically, when you get into chiropractic, chiropractors are there to take care of the whole body. Usually everybody thinks, okay, they're here to crack your neck or work on your back because you've got back pain. Right. We look at people as a whole. Every part of you, your whole body is a living entity. And so if we just say adjusted your neck, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be fixed or cured just because we took care of that. Everything's connected to everything else in the body. And so we try to take care of all that. Chiropractors will go to, as far as chiropractic school, they've got undergrad work done 4 years plus another 3.5, 4 years of chiropractic school. Just like MDs, we go through the physiology, the pathophysiology. We've got a number of courses that replicate what MDs do. And so instead of us going through surgical rotations, we'll go through chiropractic rotations.
I was reading about that because a lot of times people think that it's like a pseudo medicine or it's a certificate. You go and take 6 months of class and you graduated college. So now suddenly you can be a chiropractor or something of that nature. And there's so much more to it than just, getting a quick certification so you can hang it on your wall and treat people.
No, and actually we spend more time in the classroom studying different things as far as even medications. Our class on meds, it was a full semester where a lot of MDs go through and they get a couple seminars and then they're taught by a lot of the medical reps the specifics of certain meds that they deal with. And then they get to look at all their iPads and everything else now to see what to prescribe to somebody.
Right.
The interesting thing is that a lot of chiropractors, because of their education, because of us being on that list of, if you go somewhere, go here, and then go to see a chiropractor last. That's your last resort. We're always last resorts.
Right.
But at the same time, we have to somehow show you that we know our stuff. And so coming into the office, and I speak for myself as well as many others, that an exam by us, an initial exam, takes a full hour.
Well, my husband was shocked by that.
How often are you going to an MD and that MD is touching, pushing, pulling, having you do this or that, doing heart rate, full vitals, everything for a whole hour?
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's 2 or 3 minutes and you're lucky if you get 2 words in with a doctor.
Right.
So we
well, you do get an hour in the waiting room.
Yeah, we
You
pride
really
ourselves on
answer.
spending the time
Right.
and finding out. We'll ask questions that ask about everything else. You came in for an injured wrist, and I'm going to ask about your hands, wrists, arms, neck, back, what you do for a living, what you do for fun, what got you to this point. Were you a preemie baby? All kinds of different things that add up to what your body is at this point in time.
And that, I mean, again, obviously, you know, my husband, it took me the better part of a decade to convince him. And this is my spouse. This is someone who sees what you do, like sees me come home and sees me feel better and sees the results of the treatment, but still said, it's all hokum. It's in my head. And I finally convinced him to go when he wasn't getting answers about his spine. And the same thing. It was an hour later and we left and he was literally like dumbfounded. He goes, I can't explain how I feel. And just his mood in general. And of course, conversations after that, he goes, I didn't expect it to be an hour. And I didn't expect him to ask the questions that he asked. I'm like, well, how does he know, 30 years worth of history in 2 seconds and not be your doctor for the last 30 years? He's got to ask those questions.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll joke too when I'm taking a history. I've got a full blank page, and if I've got some space left on that page, anything else that we need to talk about, because I still have room to write.
Right.
And everybody always thinks that, oh, they just gave me their whole life history in 20 minutes, and it's still not enough in the sense that we go through different things and say, oh yeah, I forgot. I did break my leg 15 years ago, or when I was an infant, or yes, I was dropped on my head as a child. And so
right.
all those little things do make a difference on how we treat you, as a person as a whole.
Right.
So, and that's where we go into other things as far besides chiropractic.
Right. And now obviously with chiropractic care, there's physical manipulation of the body. There's, in my opinion, it doesn't seem to be beat up as much as acupuncture. What is acupuncture? Where does it come from? Where did it start?
So acupuncture falls along the lines of Chinese medicine. It was founded in China some 5,000 years ago. And one of the stories of how it was founded was that there's some Chinese travelers, somebody fell and tripped, landed on some gravel and some rocks, and they were pulling out some of these rock chips out of this person's hand and arm. And when they pulled it out, that person was yelling that, oh my gosh, that hurt. Well, yeah, because you had a rock stuck in you.
Right.
But no, they're saying, no, it still hurts.
Right.
It hurts more. And apparently the person doing it shoved the rock back in and the pain disappeared.
Oh.
And so that's where, when you have 1 billion people to work with,
right,
you can, in a sense, experiment and check and see how things like that happen and work. And so they developed the whole acupuncture system. And there are so many different varieties of acupuncture.
Oh, I can imagine.
Depending on what parts of China, there's, there's Chinese acupuncture, Korean, Japanese, Taiwanese, and believe it or not, the French. The French have done acupuncture for decades, and they have actually the most current literature research on acupuncture, more so than the Chinese.
I was actually, because we were discussing this yesterday, and I was really surprised by that because, I pride myself in my research. And another thing we were talking about yesterday is that I try and look for reputable sources, because when you Google something or you search for something on a search engine, the first 10 things that come back are, medicalcenter.com and medicine.com. And it's all of these things that it's a website or a company that somebody else owns. And it's most likely an affiliate marketing company that's getting paid because of people clicking on their website. And I try to go to, Johns Hopkins, Mayo, PubMed, sites that are more reputable to get information. And it's amazing that you don't find those things. It's like on the 7th page, because after we talked about it, I went and looked, and sure enough, it's there. Mm-hmm. But to hear you talk about these credible sources that are actually doing clinical studies is fantastic.
And the French, one of their studies involved, they wanted to see just how the Chinese knew that certain points correlated with different areas of the body. For instance, in the ear, your ear is mapped out, and you've got your whole body in there, as far as this being the head, this is your spine, right, legs, and so on. And what they did is they actually were able to put receptors on different parts of the brain. So somebody got opened up
Right.
and there are receptors on there.
Okay.
And when they stimulated those points in the ears, they got a reading on those receptors to show that,
That's
yes, that
fantastic.
correlates to that part of the brain, which correlates to that part of the body, that organ system, which is pretty neat.
I think that's amazing. I mean, when you think about medical science, anything in general, how they get from here to discovering all of these meridian points and what they can actually do, and then to be able to study them. And what was one of the things that I guess it made sense to me, but once I read it, was the hardest part of doing a clinical study for acupuncture is finding a control. How do you stick somebody with needles without sticking somebody with needles? How do you create that placebo effect to treat that, to do those studies? That just seems so difficult.
And there's still plenty of studies out there that are ongoing, and placebo effect, yes, but you have to remember too, acupuncture is it's a form of Chinese medicine, in the sense of acupuncture is chiropractic. You don't need to be manhandled for an adjustment. You don't have to have needles done. You can have the pressure of a pen or a finger. I use an electronic wand.
We
do pressure points. So a lot of different avenues, different methods, ways of doing acupuncture. So for anybody that's scared of needles or does not like them, we can do acupuncture on you without that and be just as effective. And again, there are different parts of the body that, depending on, sometimes it's race, nationality, male, female, young or old, we'll pick different points on the body to use for therapy, like the ears. Some people just don't like their ears being done.
Right.
So they'll do some hand acupuncture, or they want full body acupuncture.
Yeah. And it's over the years of conversations that we've had, it's funny, the common knowledge that you think you have, and then when you go and find out about these different things and all of the benefits that I've gotten from acupuncture. And now, and I remember years ago talking to you about a friend of ours who's got her ears gauged, and she's got her nipples pierced, and she's got her nose pierced, and she has all of these piercings. And now, after seeing you for so many years, knowing that there's all of these pressure points that she just blew up, that you can't really use anymore.
And that's exactly it. They kind of blow those points up. There are the belly button piercing for women. Pretty common, a fad,
Right.
But it's the first thing we say that needs to come out if you're going to do fertility treatments with us. There are points where, for migraines,
Right.
In the ear and in the hand, that yes, you can pierce that. It's going to probably help you for a short period of time, but at the same time, it's too much stimulation. It's too much. And then if you do some of those piercings and it expanders, different things,
Right.
That point is gone. You may end up with those migraines for the rest of your life because of it.
And I think that's something that a lot of times is missed, is like with my care with you, it's not a quick fix. And that's always my disclaimer, is that nothing's a quick fix. People tell me that my diet and everything that I do is this fantastic, holy crap, you make it look so easy. It's not easy. It's not easy for me to quit drinking and quit smoking and alter my entire diet lifestyle and my diet plan. And it's not just what I eat. It was an entire lifestyle adjustment for me and my husband. And your care has been part of that. Like I've never been, this, I've never been a fan of the chiropractic adjustments. I just haven't. I had a bad experience long before I met you, and it was never my favorite thing. So over the years, I've preferred acupuncture over chiropractic. But now that the muscles in my back pull so hard in different places, it actually, pops a rib out or makes it to where I can't breathe. And then I see you, and within literally instantaneously, like someone filled my lungs with air. It's still not a quick fix. It's part of a bigger picture of things that I do. And that's where, like with I think they call it a daith piercing, that piercing in your ear that is supposed to help with migraines. And you helped me with that, 20 years ago when I had headache issues. And it was never a piercing. It was a long ongoing treatment. And now I don't get them anymore. I haven't had a migraine in over a decade.
Well, and a lot of that's going back to, what's the source of it?
Right.
What is it? Do you just get a migraine just because your body doesn't like you at that time?
Right.
No, it's ongoing. It's what we do to ourselves over a period of time since we've been born. what we've been exposed to, subjected to, what we've done to ourselves as far as sports and or couch potatoes, sitting, eating whatever. And your whole process of the low sodium it's a process.
Mhm.
You know, you didn't just suddenly go, okay, I'm not going to eat this, period.
Right.
You know, it's let's try this. And that's how you got to be good at making all the different, everything you make.
Right.
You try this recipe, you try this one. No, that doesn't work. I didn't feel good with this. And so with chiropractic, and acupuncture, it's the same thing. It's not hit or miss, but to some degree, you have to see what works for you. Everybody is different.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm getting adjusted. There is a young lady that I had a few years back that she had bad headaches. The back of her, the base of her skull always hurt, was tender, but she could not stand the sound of her neck cracking. She just,
I know that I can relate.
it took her 2 years for me to adjust her. But I have no problem waiting. So
Sure.
we had other resources to use. We did therapies. We did some acupuncture on her just to calm everything down. So you don't need to go to a chiropractor and the only thing available is to get an adjustment. You know, you should not have to be, you could say, well, you know what? I'm not really thrilled about doing that.
Right.
Can we hold off? And that chiropractor usually says, sure.
And that's
You know
exactly what I did.
Let's try something else. Let's see if this works for you first.
Right. I think I went, I mean, it was months that I saw you for acupuncture long before I had my first adjustment. And it was just the same thing. The first time I'd ever had someone crack my neck, he cracked my neck so bad, I threw up in his lobby. I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is the most horrible thing I've ever been through in my life. And it wasn't until I had, 6 months of seeing you for something else and you convincing me that, just try it once. And if you don't like it, and that was the end of the road. I did it one time and realized that not every doctor is the same. And that's this, I've talked about this in previous shows where don't be scared to fire your doctor. I've talked to you about it. I've been through how many doctors trying to find solutions for everything that I've been through. Just because it doesn't mean they're a bad doctor. It just means they're bad for you. It's no different than anything else. You got to be on the same page.
You need to find one that's a good fit for you.
Right.
Because if they're going to give you advice, you need to listen to what they're saying. But if you don't like their personality, if you don't like their office staff, if you don't like the bathroom, whatever it is, you need to find something that works for you, because a lot of times your life, in a sense, depends on their advice.
Right. And you're not going to take it if you don't have a relationship.
And that's where I say it's come in for a consult. It's a free consult. You get a feel for me. I get a feel for you. And if that doesn't work, don't come see me just because somebody else, your friend, said,
right,
I'm good for you.
Right.
It's not true.
Yeah. And it's funny because I wish I could have recorded it. My husband is literally the most negative, pessimistic cynic. And he's listening right now, probably agreeing with me wholly. Yeah. And he's also a patient of Dr. Ron's. But that day that he saw you, and the funny thing is no discredit to the doctor that he had seen, but his mom worked for a chiropractor for 20 years. And he saw that chiropractor for 20 years and he'd been adjusted in it. And he'd had acupuncture treatments, but the difference between one doctor and another in the time that you took, and it's not that you're the only one or you're the anomaly out there. There's plenty of other doctors, both chiropractic, medical, otherwise, that are that person. I had the same issue with the neurosurgeons. The one I met was fantastic, took the time to explain things and do whatever. And I will forever go to him because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my issue is not neurosurgical, but here nor there. But the difference in his demeanor and belief and trusting what you can do was astronomical. And now he will forever be a lifelong patient. And if we ever moved, he would still be open-minded to going to see another doctor simply because of the care that he got from you. And that's where, creating that relationship and going through that makes such a significant difference. And if it's not, you see all these people that refer doctors online. It's like, do you really know your doctor? Do you really have a relationship with them in the 2 seconds that you spent in there? Or do you just say, well, they fixed my cold or flu, so they must be a good doctor?
Or they're quick to dispense something and,
right.
Oh yeah, go this one because they're really quick about it.
Right.
But,
they wanted to put me on a whole lot of medications and balked at me when I said I was going to stick to my acupuncture care until I found a solution.
But what's nice though now is a lot of people are taking better care of themselves.
Very
and
true.
So they're looking for something more long-term. You know, I don't want the quick fix. I mean, with something like essential oils,
Mhm.
it was a fad, it was a craze years ago, and now people are actually looking into it like, okay, we're not going to go to Walgreens and get everything off over the
Right.
counter. We're going to stay home. We're going to do this. We're going to infuse you with this. We're going to get a humidifier for the house, which we haven't done in 20 years. We're
Mhm.
going to do this. Let's have you maybe do some exercise.
Right.
Let's
Which I
let's
despise.
eat a little better. Get rid of a lot of the processed stuff that we're dealing with.
Right.
As far as food, I'm not perfect in what I eat,
Same.
but it's a matter of everything in moderation. It's a matter of trying to eliminate best you can a lot of the junk foods,
Mhm.
which junk foods aren't just chips and sodas. They're anything processed.
Mhm. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that, because it's not necessarily a one-sided thing where you get a fad diet. It's like the gluten-free. That is legitimately a diet for a medical need. So people with celiac sprue need that. But it became a fad, and people got healthier. People lost weight, and it's like, well, you got healthier because the only way to eat gluten-free is to eat less processed crap and to eat less bread and less carbs and less sugars. So it's not surprising. But then when you fall off those diets, it throws your body into such a whirlwind that it's hard to come back from when you teeter-totter between all of these things versus saying, okay, I'm going to make a lifestyle change. And I actually, this morning, someone had asked in one of the groups I'm in, where do I start? And I said, start by track your food and see what you consume, because how do you know what to get rid of if you don't know what you're eating? Like when I first started, I thought I was going to be sugar through the charts. But since Ben and I quit drinking soda long ago, I was actually surprisingly low and okay on my sugars and way off on fats and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have automatically assumed like I need to eat less sugar and less chocolate, when that wasn't the case. I eat dark chocolate and there's not really any sugar in it. So I was kind of good on that aspect. But how do you know until you look at your life as a whole picture?
A lot of times just writing it down, seeing it black and white, lets you realize like, oh, okay. And that's where part of you have to be true to you.
Right.
You can't, it's like your doctors, I'll tell people, give me a diet history of what you had for the last week and next week and bring that in and don't leave anything out.
Right.
They're like, well, of course not, I won't. And
it's
then the next question is, do I have to really be honest about it? Well, it's your body, it's your health. You're putting stuff in it. Let me see what it is. And then they see me with the marker afterwards going, okay, highlight this. And they're going, it's horrible. No, it's actually not bad compared to most out there. Right.
And that it's the same thing where when I had gotten sick with my liver and I was honest, they asked how much I drank, how much I smoked. As Ben and I, we don't have kids. We had a great house. We entertained a lot. We drank a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was honest with my doctors about that. And they called me an alcoholic and they labeled me an alcoholic cirrhosis. And not to say that I didn't drink a lot, because I did. But at the same time, when they said quit drinking, it's like, okay, next, what do we got? Move on. I didn't have an issue quitting that whatsoever. But at the same time, by being honest about it, it was almost like I got discredited. And I think a lot of times people are the same way with themselves, where you're blinded by your own ignorance, thinking that it's not that big of a deal. And when you add, something simple, like when you're like, oh, well, I cook with butter with my eggs and it's not that big of a deal. But if you use a tablespoon of butter, if you actually measure out a tablespoon compared to what you actually use in a pan, and
instead of taking the whole cube and going like this.
Yeah. And then when you're honest with yourself and you look at it and you go, holy crap, I use 4 tablespoons of oil when I cook something. And now you track your food and you're like, holy crap, I'm way up there on this, that, or the other, but I'm okay on this side. And that's what I found out. And by balancing all of that out, combined with, going to see someone like you who could balance my body and everything else, because just because I balanced my food doesn't mean that I relieved all of the stress that had been pent up in my body over the past however many decades. So by fixing things, by what I was starting to consume now, and then going to you to help me fix the damage that I had done over decades, is why I'm where I'm at now. It was a complete and overhaul of my lifestyle, not just a, hey, I'm going to go get cracked, get some needles and get fixed and I'm all good to go and never have to come back.
Yeah, I mean, it's not nice for you, but it's the nice thing about the profile for you is that you decided to fix everything inside and out.
Right.
And so my part of that is fixing what I can, the physical aspects, the functional aspects. And by you changing what you're taking in, you're feeding everything that isn't, in a sense, being fixed.
Right.
And so you're allowing your body to make those changes.
Right.
A lot of times, we'll take care of somebody, we'll take care of sprains, strains, fractures, whatever. And it's like, you know what? Cut back on a lot of processed stuff and take some omega-3 oils just so we can keep the inflammation down. And, and then somebody goes out and they go have a big, huge old country buffet type of meal. And then the next day they're coming in and go, oh my gosh, I'm really achy, sore, stiff today. What's going on?
Right.
You didn't fix me.
Yeah.
What'd you do? Nothing. I just sat down and ate 6 plates of country buffet.
It's funny because I would have never thought about that until after the fact. And by doing what I have done with my diet and with everything else and realizing how much what I consume, like you think of things when they talk about inflammatory foods and stuff, you're like, well, how much does that really do until you fast and then start reintroducing foods again? Kind of like when people who have severe allergies have to do, you find out you're allergic to something, you don't necessarily know what the specific is. And as you add things back in and go, holy crap, I discovered that I have an issue with nightshades. I was eating I grow tomatoes. I love tomatoes.
And that's where you thought, okay, I'm eating stuff that's good for me.
Right.
And
they're tomatoes.
Because everybody says it's good for you.
Right.
But it's not good for you specifically, your body.
Right.
And everybody's different. And that's where sometimes different testing is what makes a difference. You're looking at what your body's sensitive to, what needs to change. Everybody's on the probiotics kick.
Yeah.
Which one is good. And maybe you need to do a stool sample and see what's in your body, how to reinforce the good bacteria.
Right. And that's like saying, there's no quick fix or people thinking that you didn't fix them or you didn't do what you said you would do. And here for years, you had helped me with my allergies and all of a sudden it wasn't working and my allergies were back. And it wasn't until I realized that because of the fact that I was consuming so much, tomato and zucchini and all of these nightshade vegetables, loading my body with histamines, that it was almost like you were just helping me teeter on that wall all the time because I was counteracting exactly what you were trying to help me combat. And as soon as I found that out and cut those down to a reasonable level and watched how much of that I consumed, that it completely shifted back again. And now I haven't had the issues with my allergies again. So
and the nice thing is once you get through that, when you've eaten something that you shouldn't. And pretty quickly, you go, or you can sit there and go, all right, is this dessert worth me feeling horrible for 24 hours? And you just, maybe it is.
I'm not gonna lie.
But that's where
I've had my fair
the
share.
advantage of you taking care of yourself all along at this point says, okay, I know I'm just gonna not feel good for the next day, but I'll be fine after that. Because I'm going to go back, I'm going to flush it out, and I'm not going to have to deal with this for weeks on end.
Right. I'm sorry, I was looking at the time to see where we're at. Are we doing top of the hour here in a couple minutes or no?
You got about a minute.
Okay. So a friend of mine on Facebook, we're gonna touch on this a little briefly, just because I think it's hilarious that everybody always asks me or uses the word quack. Is he a quack? And it's funny because over the years, I've taken serious offense to it. And I know that I've talked to you about this numerous times when I come from a doctor and I say, what care are you under? What medicine are you on? Or what are you doing for your liver, your spine or whatever? I said, well, I got my chiropractor, my acupuncture. He keeps me upright. And they balk at it. And it when everyone says that it's not science-based medicine, it just seems like a stick in the eye almost.
Well, and that's where, there is so much science out there. You do, like you said, you have to look for it, whether it's chiropractic, and chiropractic is typically manipulation of joints, bones in the body. We're not cracking your bones.
Right.
We're allowing for more flexibility, mobility within the joints. We're allowing for muscle tissue to contract and relax the way they're supposed to. We're allowing your body to function optimally. And so with that, and there are a lot, if you look at just exercise physiology studies, that's us. If you look at what physical therapists do, that's us. We do, in fact, a lot of physical therapists want to adjust because they know how much more they can get done with their clients. But with all that, we've been called quacks forever, just because, the start of chiropractic started with a janitor being adjusted by a chiropractor, one of the first chiropractors, and all of a sudden he can hear. And
That's
so
crazy.
But they go, oh yeah, it's a fluke, it's luck, it's by chance. But if you look at the science behind that, you're opening up certain nerve avenues, you're allowing for better stimulation, you're allowing for drainage of the eustachian tube, you're allowing for kids that come into us to get adjusted because they've got ear infections.
Right.
Would you want to get adjusted or get tubes put in? Tubes, yeah, might be easy, but you've got a hole in your ear now.
And speaking of holes in your ear, we're going to take a break right here at the bottom of the hour, and we'll pick back up with more holes in your ear and maybe holes everywhere else. So, holes in chiropractic, more coming up here on My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Schepp and her very special guest, Dr. Ronald Masukawa. And I hope you're enjoying the show so far. Actually, you are, Mary, are real close to breaking a record on listeners of a single show here. So first time ever, maybe with 2 or 3 more, we'll break a record. So that's pretty cool. So, but we actually love partnering sponsors like Stuckey's Family Restaurant, 815-331-8050, Stuckey's Bar and Grill, GRILLE.com, All American Cuisine made from scratch daily for their fabulous breakfast buffet, including made-to-order omelets and the best biscuits and gravy around, so I'm told. Visit them Sundays from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Stuckey's is easy to find at 4000 North Johnsburg Road, Johnsburg, Illinois, sharing the same parking lot with Angelo's Supermarket. Stuckey's Family Restaurant, 815-331-8050. And, of course, the wonderful fellows over at X-Tech LLC, 815-516-8075. xtek.repair. X-Tech provides device repair and service plans, business servers, and single computer support, web design and SEO. They also specialize in custom gaming PC builds. Contact Justin and George for IT done right the first time. X-Tech LLC, 815-516-8075. xtek.repair on the web. Go check them out. Now, we're going to get back to My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Schepp and her very special guest, Dr. Ronald Masukawa, and talking all about chiropractic and acupuncture and how that actually really, truly helps. It's real stuff, folks. Real stuff. Dig in, listen, have fun. If you got questions, pop them up on the Facebook live stream or YouTube live stream, and we'll be happy to share those. Guys, why don't you get back into it?
So, obviously, we're talking about quackery and whether or not you're legitimate and the science based behind it. And it's funny to me when people talk about science based stuff, or when someone throws at me that it's not scientifically proven. And all I can think of is like blood typing. When they originally blood typed stuff and they discovered that there's, 3 blood types, and then they discovered that there's plasma and there's antigens and there's this, and now that there's all of these different things. And as science goes on, there's still those 3 blood types, but then there's more science behind it as years pass. Or you look at, Pluto. Pluto was a planet, and now Pluto's not a planet. It's just a big old star. And when someone says that to me, it's like, well, there's plenty of studies, and kind of when we do canning, there's a lot of controversy because you'll take the FDA, and what they say is scientifically safe to can. So you can can meat if you do it under this process and this pressure for this time at this temperature. And the FDA has deemed that safe. And then you take somebody who's grown up for the last 10 generations and taught from generation to generation to generation to generation how to can food, and not one time has anybody ever gotten sick from any of their food, yet the FDA is going to say that they're going to die if they do it that way. How are you going to convince that person that they're wrong when they've got decades of history? And it's the same with acupuncture in my mind, where just the history alone, not even counting the fact, like you were saying, where the French and all of these studies have actually been done to put science behind it as well.
Along those lines, with obviously the Chinese have had 5,000 years of experience behind them, and that's their, in a sense, clinical research. It was the work they did on their own people, and for the most part, to have a robust population like that it's a strong population. I mean, the people work hard, they live really hardy, and so to keep them going like that, they had to have something. And acupuncture, Chinese medicine came about to, in a sense, protect their own people.
Right.
And so I say they've done a great job. They're out to conquer the world, and they don't care how long it takes. And hopefully we'll still be around in the decades to come. But with acupuncture, with chiropractic, the science is based on the basics of it. It's not so much the application. So you can have a chiropractor, you can have 10 chiropractors go to the same school, learn the same techniques, and you go to each one of them, they're all going to be different adjustments for the same result. So they're looking at how we can get a better result with their clients or patients. Acupuncture, it's, do I stick a needle in your ear, or do I press on your hand or your finger? Do I put some tablets or BBs on your back? What's going to work for you? So along those lines, the quackery, I think, comes from the way things are applied, where you've got a chiropractor that says, okay, I want you to hang upside down from these bars and I'll adjust you upside down. Okay, that's a little off. There are some standards, but chiropractors and just about in any business, everybody comes up with their own version of something. Coming up with your own version of this recipe. Well, let me tweak it a little bit. Canning. Let's can this way, but maybe you just didn't get your FDA approval way back when because of who knows what. But you might be able to get it now. And because it's perfectly safe, it's been proven. And as far as the adjustments, they're safe as long as the chiropractor does his homework. Does his exam.
And I always thought it was funny that when some of the questions that people ask, like, are you, like you said, I'm not cracking your bones, or that, chiropractic adjustments cause arthritis, like cracking your knuckles cause arthritis and all of this stuff. And it's not necessarily an arthritic process. It's a little bit different than
and stuff like that. It's the way you're doing things. Yes, that can lead to wear and tear on a joint. Arthritis is wear and tear. And with that, when we say stop cracking your knuckles, there are ways of doing it so you're not going to cause any further injury. That type of thing. Well, I've been doing this for 50 years. Well, look at your fingers.
And also, if you're already genetically prone or predisposition to those arthritic diseases, you might want to think about doing something else. The same with gastrointestinal. If you're already, your whole bloodline has issues with certain things, you might want to think about not having dairy or whatever it may be.
And chiropractic isn't for everybody. There are other things. Maybe that adjustments of any kind just don't work well with you. So it's look for different avenues. Look for other ways to stay flexible and mobile. And look at when we get old, what do we fear the most? Not being able to move. It's people who have their head sticking 8 inches forward, or they're hunched over. Everybody's worried about that hunchback, or shuffling their feet. With chiropractic, the premise is to maintain flexibility and mobility in all those joints, so you can keep going. So when you retire, hopefully, if anybody still retires at 65, they can go enjoy things that they're waiting to enjoy.
Or, like what it seems to be. I'll be retired at like 92, but that's okay. And it's funny that you say that, because I found that the more I move, the better I am, as much as it sucks. Especially with my whole spinal lesion thing, and even with my liver, I despise working out. I truly despise working out. I hate everything about it. I'm a child about it. I'm a baby about it. I don't like it. There is no runner's high for me. It just doesn't happen. I don't like it. I do any exercise simply because I have to, because the more I move around, the better I feel. And especially now with the issues with my nerves, the more I move my muscles, and the more, so on days that I stand around more than, if I'm just standing in my store talking to customers versus running around my store, moving and doing things and walking and staying in constant movement, it significantly helps in the mobility of my joints. So if I find myself, like yesterday, I was off work and I found myself super stiff by the end of the afternoon, and I just start walking around my kitchen just to get the blood flowing in my body and in my joints, because all of that water and everything that's in your body and settles in all of these places, and without moving it does. You can feel yourself by the end of the day slouching more and not lifting your feet simply because your knees hurt, your hips hurt, your whatever hurts. And without that movement to keep things flowing and keep things, to filter through your body, it causes significant problems.
And a lot of times if we can't adjust you or find anything that works for you in the office, we're looking up for other things, other avenues. There are a lot of times we've recommended or referred people over to a couple of the other pools, the Y, the Health Bridge, because pool therapy, or here, go try out yoga at this studio. They might be a good fit for you. And so a lot of times it's, going to a chiropractor is not the answer to everything. It's an avenue, it's a way for you to help get yourself better,
right?
To improve your quality of life.
Right. Now I had a lot of questions, so I kind of weeded through most of them. And the first one right off the bat is, and a lot of these are ones that I know and it was really hard for me not to just answer people and be like, yeah, totally 100%, because, it's over the years, I've had gastro problems since I was very young. One of the first times I went into the hospital was finals, I think, for my 8th grade year. So I, however old I was then. No, it would have been my freshman year. So about 16 years old. And they just chalked it off as you ate something bad, whatever, go home, eat saltines, and you're fine. It was like an intestinal infection thing, and I got no answers. And I've had problems all my life. But with the groups that I'm in, because of low sodium, the two big things were with liver and kidney disease, and how can you help with the functionality with people who have liver and kidney failure after the fact, after diagnosis, after cancer, or someone like me who has cirrhosis of the liver, and how does acupuncture help someone like me who has liver disease? Like, I mean, obviously you've helped me significantly with my gastrointestinal issues. How the heck does that even work?
Well, the role of acupuncture is to help bring everything back into balance. And everybody goes, okay, balance. Everybody tells me balance my life, balance this. Acupuncture helps to re-regulate a lot of your body's systems, whether it's organ function, it's joint function, it's blood circulation, any of those things. And so what we do is we try to find, in a sense, the pattern that fits for you. We don't just go after, let's hit the liver points. We're going to go after the points that affect your liver, how you process your blood, how circulation is throughout your body, what does your intestine do when you're eating certain foods. Let's see if we can help stimulate activity or slow that down if you've got IBS or Crohn's, anything like that. Obviously, the pain that goes along with eating anything, we can help to minimize. And so the acupuncture can, off the bat, stimulate something like endorphins, which is your body's feel-good hormones.
Right.
It can help reduce the nerve impulses to and from the brain, which can slow down pain signals. It can stimulate blood flow. It can stimulate circulation to different areas. So as far as with your liver, do we just take care of that? No, we're going to look at pancreas too.
Right.
We're going to look at large intestine, small intestine. And I'm going to ask you questions like, how often are you having a bowel movement? Well, once every 2 days is not enough.
Right.
You're eating how many times a day? You need to go that many times a day.
Right.
You don't want things expanding your body, releasing a bunch of other toxins, creating other problems. You want things to move smoothly. You don't want your body to work so hard.
That I've obviously, with the food side of things, discovering that what you eat, like when you live with somebody, like I live with my husband, and you can't help but compare yourself, especially if you're having issues. How often does, speaking of going to the bathroom, nobody ever wants to talk about it. But if you notice somebody else is doing something more or less than you are, it's also comparative directly to what you're putting in your body. like before my first colonoscopy, and they tell you to eat your, certain foods because you go less. It cleans out your system because there's nothing retained in your system, a low fiber and all that stuff. So if you're not eating anything to stimulate any kind of action in your intestinal tract, you're kind of doing yourself a serious disjustice by not having that balanced diet to keep things moving in your system.
Exactly.
So the other one, let's see, what do we got? So this one is kind of twofold. I know that someone had asked if you can help with the cramping associated with a low sodium diet. Typically with a low sodium diet, and here's the downfall. When you go on a low sodium or any other diet that a doctor prescribes you, when I went on low sodium, I was told, eat less salt, go home, take your medications, and that's it. Well, there's so much more to it. By eating less sodium, well, the medications I was on also was potassium sparing. So I had high potassium and low sodium. But once I got off those medications, now I was also low potassium, and not having those balanced, the potassium and the magnesium and all the things in my blood is what was causing that cramping. So by not balancing my food, it caused that cramping to begin with. But the cramping itself, I think, is something that you've helped me significantly with, as far as being able to loosen up all that muscular structure when you do have those cramping issues.
A lot of times, whether when you have that cramping, you've obviously got that muscle that's just cramping, it's tightening up, but at the same time, it's in a sense causing a disjointing of the joints on both ends of that muscle too. So it's throwing off other parts of you. And the acupuncture can help with what's actually moving through the muscle, as far as getting some more blood flow in there. Because when it cramps up, there's nothing going through. It's too tight. And then you're burning up a ton of minerals, the sodium, potassium, magnesium. And you can't necessarily, because you're on that diet, you can't necessarily take that supplement just to get rid of it like most people. But there are alternatives. And that's dependent on the blood work that we see. Do we maybe introduce some vitamin E? Do we go with something like the fish oil that can help supplement or take the place of, in a sense, some of those minerals, just so your muscles don't feel like they're lacking everything that they're supposed to have to prevent that? Certain types of exercises, nothing major, a lot of times can help out just by helping to expand that muscle, get it to contract, reteach that muscle that contract up to this point and not overdo it.
The other thing that I was shocked over the years, like I would get the cramp in the arch of my foot, and instead of rubbing the arch of my foot, you would rub down the center of my shin bone. And it wasn't necessarily as you had taught me, that it wasn't necessarily the muscle in my foot that was the problem. That just happened to be the weaker muscle that was feeling the pain of a larger muscle that was causing the inherent issue. So finding the root cause of what's causing that cramp has been
seeing
fascinating.
What major groups are causing that, and sometimes, and I've squeezed your Achilles too, where you've screamed out a few times, but that cramp did go away.
Right. It's almost instant. And that's what's always so fascinating to me is, like yesterday when you had hit a point in my ear, in the side of my whole pancreas, spleen, whatever the heck it is, just contracted. And it was the weirdest thing to feel these different things, the reflective pain or referred pain or whatever the heck it is, that the way that all of the different muscle structures and nerves in the body are connected is absolutely fascinating to me. So it's kind of the neat thing to see that, to be able to have that, like you said, like a cramp in my foot or somewhere else. Or a lot of times they're in the lower calf muscles with me initially when I had my low sodium and stuff like that. To when you get poked full of needles, and it's funny because I'll go in and tell you what's going on, and I don't know what you do. It's not like okay, this needle here is going to fix this problem, and this needle here is going to fix this problem. You don't tell me what you're doing. I tell you what's wrong, and you do what you do, and then I go away feeling better. So,
and a lot of times, because we do patterns of needles,
right,
we can say this point is specific for stress or this point is specific for circulation, but that's not just what they do. And so to talk about all those points on an individual basis is going to go, well, wait a minute, that's not really what I told them I need.
Right.
So you do it in combination. It's basically you're we're training your body to respond and react to those points in a positive way. And so for those cramps, I might throw 6 needles in your ears and you're going, okay, it's in my foot. You're hitting my ear. Okay, I get that one of those is for my foot point, but what else?
Right.
Maybe it's absorption in your gut. Maybe it has to do with circulation. Maybe it has to do with the nerve impulses to and from. They're going a little crazy and they're too fast, and that's causing that pain and cramping. So what did you eat last night? Maybe we have to hit a couple stomach points or some other digestive points to help change that up too.
Right. Let's see. So this one was a big one. Years ago, I was on anxiety medication because for some reason I would just pass out. I would have a panic attack and pass out. Nobody could tell me why. I didn't feel stressed. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel depressed. There was no underlying, reason where you would think that I had an anxiety attack or panic attack. And of course, the doctors put me on anxiety medication, which I hated. And I'm the poster child for side effects. So of course I had every side effect known to man. And that was one of the other big questions that came up, I think like 9 times, is can acupuncture help with stress and anxiety? And that to me personally is a big resounding yes.
Yes. We do it all the time. And even for people who don't come in for that specifically, if you've had an injury or you've got low back issues, something chronic, after 3 months of it, you're going to get depressed. You're going to get upset. You're going to be stressed out. If anybody has kids, you're stressed out. If you're running around Illinois, you're stressed. So,
right.
It's
if you're paying taxes, you're stressed.
What are we doing for that? We're hitting points that apply to stress directly, but that's where that hour comes in for that initial visit. What is it from?
Right.
What's stressing you out? I do have some stomach issues, but that usually doesn't bother me. But my kids are going crazy, or, we just bought a new house, or, I'm getting my car fixed. I had a flat tire this morning, anything like that. And
that was me this morning, by the way, as I had a flat tire on the way. And thanks to my lovely husband for replacing my tire for me.
So what we do is we try to give you some immediate relief, but at the same time, we're trying for long-term to see if we can get your body to shift a little bit so that it can cope better with those stresses.
Right.
And that's where a lot of times medication, if you're taking specific meds for it, people go, oh, you know what? I didn't have to take it as much, or I'm only down to half a tablet now. It's not, as chiropractors, we can't tell you to stop taking your meds,
right?
But we can make your life a lot better, in a sense, increase or help that quality of lifestyle. And maybe you find that, oh, I'm less stressed. I don't need to take that anymore. Or my gut's doing better. I don't have to take this anymore. And if you're taking Tums for all that, stop.
Right. It's funny because that a lot of times, especially with all of my doctors, they're just so, and not to discredit them, but they really do, with my spine, first thing they wanted to do is, well, let's start you on gabapentin. And I said, well, so you know what I have? Well, no, but it'll help alleviate the symptoms. Well, I don't want you to suppress my symptoms, and then I don't know what's going on with a drug that has a lot of side effects until I absolutely wholeheartedly say I can no longer walk or function without it, and then I need this medication. I've always been the one to try and find that alternative means, so I've always been more open to someone like you, which I wish more people were. I'm trying to see how many. Neuropathy. That is something that I have a significant amount of neuropathy. And I know that acupuncture helps with that, along with a couple times you've had the massage therapist come in just to stimulate blood flow in my feet, which has been significant.
So we do that. There are a couple other types of therapy. As far as a lot of people will use electric stim, they'll use a TENS unit. They'll do foot soaks if it's in their feet or even in their hands. It's paraffin baths. A lot of that helps a little bit. What we're finding is that it is a long-term condition, and it doesn't just go away after a few visits, no matter what kind of adjustments or treatments you get acupuncture-wise. So it's something that a lot of times it didn't come on just like that, and all of a sudden you have it one day. It came on because of an injury or an accident.
Right.
It's slowly getting tingly, and it's more numb, or it's burning, and it just gets worse and worse. And it's been like that for years. And so now I got to get taken care of. And so with that, you have to understand a lot of times the treatments take, in a sense, just as long.
Mhm.
You know, it didn't happen overnight. If it happened overnight and we saw you the next day for something, we have a pretty good chance of undoing a lot of what happened to you at that point. But again, we're the last resort.
Right.
And so we see people after they've tried 10 different medications,
Right.
5 doctors, 3 hospitals, and everything else.
I
So
got 10 years of stress built up.
let's see what we can do. We do the best we can. We look for, with acupuncture, you look for any results, good or bad. And that's saying that, yes, we are on the right track. So if you went home feeling miserable because of that acupuncture treatment, that's a good thing, because we're creating a change and we can control that change to some degree. So
it's funny that you say that, because there's been plenty of times where it's almost like a detox situation where I would go see you and I would come home and Ben's like, well, did you talk to Dr. Ron about all this? Because you seem worse. But then the next morning I feel better. It's almost like all of this crap was released out of my system. And then after a few hours of dealing with it, it starts to almost like a pendulum swing, reverse back the opposite direction, just as much as it went in the one direction. And it does actually have that, equal and opposite effect of ultimately making me feel better. It just took a little bit more time. So when you have that first reaction of, well, he didn't do what he did because I feel worse, when that's not actually the case. So I'm trying to think, we got a couple minutes here. The big one, a lot of people in our group have Meniere's disease. If I'm saying that correctly, it's an inner ear disease.
Labyrinth in the ear.
Yeah.
We've had fairly good results with treating that, in the sense of whether it's the pain, the discomfort, you can end up with tinnitus, the ringing in the ears, the buzzing, so many different things. For most, it's just really uncomfortable, and even vertigo or dizziness.
Right.
And so what the acupuncture does is it tries to help regulate the fluid. It helps with the so-called rocks in your ears. They're crystals that sometimes can lay improperly in there. And the labyrinth, a lot of times you'll have fluid that collects, which creates an imbalance, almost like having a sinus infection or ear infection, and you've got fluid in your ear, or you've gone to the pool and you've got ear in one ear and everything just feels off. And so we try to help balance that out with it. And it's hard to understand that acupuncture, okay, so you're doing a couple needles or you're doing stim on those points. How is that going to help? Well, by changing up some of the impulses, the innervations, the nerves going to the ear, how your body responds to that. If we slow it down, speed it up, increase blood flow towards that area, that can balance things out. It's almost like you taking your hand and closing your nose, blowing through your ears to change the pressure up a little bit. So it's not an exact science. There are a couple things with that. If you have a good eardrum, then a lot of times we'll do fluid, put some saline in your ear and do an electric acupuncture in the ear to possibly help with that.
Yeah, because that's obviously with people with the disease, there's the obvious reason why they're in low sodium groups is because by limiting the amount of sodium, obviously it limits the amount of water retention and so on and so forth, which the water in your ear, coupling that with some acupuncture care. And I could see how somebody could have some significant benefit from that. So I think we're coming up on about 2 minutes. So we've got maybe time for one more question here. So I know that my husband specifically has had relief from this with scoliosis and spina bifida, because one of the first things that you helped him with, obviously it resorted in back surgery, because sometimes that's just unavoidable. He went to you, he had severe back pain, could barely walk. And almost instantly within, I think it was 2 weeks, we had an MRI and everything done, and he had back surgery. But I'm assuming that, both chiropractic and acupuncture care can help with the pains associated with those scoliosis and
yeah. And a lot of times and for him, and this is one thing too, you want to make sure your chiropractor is willing to refer out.
Right.
Because with what I saw for Ben, that was surgical. It's not something that we're not here to fix everything or cure everything. We don't cure anything. We just get your body back in order so it can help itself.
Right.
And so for that, scoliosis, I mean, it's physical ailments, low back pain. Again, finding the source. If it's idiopathic, the scoliosis just was there.
Sure.
Yeah, manipulations can help, but
I'm sorry, guys, we got about 12 seconds out here.
So
go ahead.
yeah, where we're going to find us. We can find us on My LoSo Life. Yeah, I've been down this road a couple times. Pete, thanks very much. But yes, My LoSo Lifestyle on my Facebook page. You can download the 216 The Net app and listen to us live on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Are we good? Oh, we got still 10 seconds. So what else do we got?
I just want to say thank you, Mary. Thank you, Pete, for having me.
Thanks, Dr. Ron. Ronald Masukawa, thank you for being my first guest. This is fantastic.
Yay.
On My LoSo Lifestyle.
Awesome job, guys. Very
so
cool.
now, see, we got
So now you can wave goodbye to
Facebook.
everybody.
Can we say bye to everybody
Yeah,
on
we're officially
Facebook?
off the air, but you can
We're
say
off the
goodbye to
radio
everybody
station,
there.
and you
So
stay- 'cause now once you finish the radio, and it's funny because I almost said something one day, and you got to remember that you're still live. And it wasn't anything bad, but I'm like, holy crap, I'm still live on Facebook, and I almost said this, that, or the other way.